Hey, it's your girl Go Queen with the Q Chat podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Before we get started, I want to give you some information on how you can grab some Q Chat merchandise. Go to www.goqueen.com and there you can purchase any Q Chat merchandise or any of my Go Love Yourself tees. So go ahead, take a look at the website and feel free to grab some merchandise today. There's something else I want to fill you guys in on. If you haven't heard, Anchor is the hottest and easiest way to make a podcast. It's the best price in the world, free. So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And just remember, Anchor distributes your podcast to all streaming platforms. It's super simple. So go ahead and sit back and get ready to listen to the next episode of the Q Chat. But don't forget, go to www.goqueen.com and grab some merchandise. Thank you for tuning in and get ready to listen in. Go Queen! All right, so we're recording another episode of the Q Chat. This is actually episode 29. I'm super excited, and I always say I'm excited before I start recording. But today I have another author, a New Orleans bred author, and everyone that has listened knows that I was born and raised in New Orleans, so I have like special love for anybody out of that city. So today I have Miss Teriece Cherell, and she wrote an awesome book entitled Live, Learn, and Love. With an open heart, life lessons on cultivating healthy and meaningful relationships. So I want to go ahead and give Miss Teriece the floor so she can go ahead and introduce herself. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. And yourself? Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm so happy to have you. So thank you again for reaching out. Like I love just meeting different people, and like I said, it's a different thing. I think people from New Orleans, it is true, like we all consider ourselves family. We have like a special kinship. So it's like whenever we meet people out of the city, it's like extra excitement. So like I want to thank you again just for sending me the book and reaching out to be on the podcast. So what I want to do, and I always every theme I try to do at each episode, for the listeners, as everyone knows, like I'm big on empowerment. Go Love Yourself is my big platform. And your book, ironically, is about learning, loving, and living. And it just fits into what we like to promote for the listeners. So what I want to do first, if you can give everyone a background, like what was your claim to fame? Like, what made you decide to write the book? I know, like, in the beginning of the book, you said, like, when you first thought to write a book, you were thinking about, what direction you wanted to go in. So if you can give us all a background on how you got started and what made you decide to write the book. What was your inspiration?
Let me start. So I am from New Orleans, uptown girl, born and raised uptown New Orleans. I attended Xavier Prep High School. Then I went to Norfolk State University in Virginia. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science with an emphasis in pre-law. I have a paralegal certification, and I also have a master's in business administration. But as a child, I've always loved to read, write, speak, and act. So I would always be in the plays at church, the Easter, Christmas, Black History Program, Founders Day, and also at school, I was in the drama club and just various activities where I spoke or acted. So I always kind of had that love of the arts. I used to write poetry as well. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I actually started writing what would have been my first book. I just wrote about my life, my childhood, my experiences growing up. So the writer was always inside of me, I would say. I didn't necessarily think that I would, be a writer, like this is the career. I actually wanted to be a lawyer or an actress.
Mm.
Because I could speak and act. But the writing was always there. I participated in a few, essay contests and one at school. So
Mm-hmm.
I always had the way of expressing myself through writing and poetry that as a child I would always find myself going back to. And as I stated, I love to read. So, it always kind of went hand in hand. I love to read, I love to write. But the idea from the book was about 2 years ago, I became affiliated with the All Access Foundation, and it's a nonprofit organization. It mentors young women ages like 25 to 45, but we have older women. It mentors them in 4 areas. And the 4 areas were becoming a first time homeowner, going back to school, starting a business, or becoming an author. So since I kind of had two of those things, of course, I wasn't interested in going back to school at the time. I was doing credit repair and credit restoration. So that kind of went in line with the homeowners piece. So I decided that it was time to get back into my writing. And it was through that foundation with CC Harrison. She's the CEO and also a member of my church, the City of Love here in New Orleans. Shout out to Bishop Love and Pastor Fran. But it was through that foundation that I got back into writing the book. So Cece invited me to attend one of the opening sessions. I learned about the foundation. I told her that I wanted to get back into writing, to be an author. And she was like, okay, great, let's do it. So we sat down, and at that time, I had the tentative outline
Mm-hmm.
as well as the chapter title. So I knew what I wanted to write about. I knew I wanted to focus on the relationships and the experiences that I've had that have shaped me into the woman that I am today. So although I may not have been in a relationship at the time, I was in all types of relationships because, as we know, there are different types and different forms of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought about my experiences, I thought about my life, and I thought about the lessons that I learned through these relationships with other people and how they influenced me and how they shaped me. So I wanted to share my story about that. So that's kind of where the writing and the topic came from. But the actual title
Mm-hmm.
was inspired by India Irie. She is one of my favorite artists, and her album was Testimony Volume 1, Life and Relationships. And at that time, I remember being in college. It was one of my favorite albums. It just spoke to me. Really good music just speaks to your soul. You
Right.
have those songs that you just have them on repeat, and I don't know, they just do something to you.
Mm-hmm.
So this was one of the albums at that time in my life that I would just listen to on repeat. And I would just kind of let the words speak to my soul. I thought about, the different title tracks and how they related to my life. I choose. There's hope. I just thought about everything that she was saying in those songs and how they were relative to me at that point in my life, and learning to love myself and dealing with different relationships. So that's where the inspiration for the title of the book came from. And I'll share with you a little later on how I actually got to meet her and give her a copy of the book. But we can talk about that later. So that's pretty much how the writing came about with the title and wanting to share my experiences with different relationships.
Wow. So I see in the preface of the book, you said that this book is designed for anyone who has loved, experienced loss, or been hurt and now want to heal. And you also said it's for those who seek that unconditional, authentic love that we long to share. So I know, like with your book, obviously, whenever we all talk about our life, we definitely have to start back from the core base, our childhood. So I know, like you discussed, how you and your family, you grew up in a two-parent family home, and you guys grew up in the CJ Pete, which people from New Orleans knows as the Magnolia. Because
Yes.
I'm an uptown girl too.
Yes,
I'm
you know.
uptown too, right? Raised off at Chapatulas in Nashville. My parents actually still live there, so I know
Wow.
exactly what you're talking about. But you were saying how even though you grew up from your two-parent family, they worked very hard. You and your sibling went to Catholic school and everything. What do you feel? Just from the beginning, because obviously, you mentioned in the book how relationships is not just it's family, it's friends, obviously your love lives, things of that nature. What would you think, just your childhood, how did that mold you in your journey towards getting to where you're at now as far as your view of relationships?
My childhood, I would have to say, it was great. I was always surrounded, by love, by family. I only had two siblings, two older brothers. I was the baby of the group and the girl, but I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cousins. My mom came from a larger family. She had 8 brothers and sisters, so I had a lot of cousins. that were pretty much older. So I was pretty much kind of the baby of the group on both sides. My dad's family was smaller. He only had four brothers. So I was always surrounded by a lot of, a lot of family, a lot of love. I remember a lot of barbecues and cookouts, a lot of, car games, just on weekends, going by my aunts, playing with my cousins. They were cooking, playing cards. There was music, playing games. It was always, surrounded by love and family and people just wanting to spend quality time with each other, and engage in activities with their children. So that was a good influence on me. Although, as I stated, my immediate family was smaller. You have to consider those other relationships with extended family. I was very close to my paternal grandmother. I mean, I was there all the time. Her and my uncle, yeah, love them. It was always love. And of course, for me, it seemed like sometimes I got a little more, of course, from the immediate. So from my grandparents, my paternal grandmother, my maternal grandmother died when I was a little girl, so I didn't have her as long as I had my paternal grandmother. Momo, is what we called her. But I always felt love. I always, felt a sense of belonging, of wanting to be more and do more. They were very encouraging. I grew up in a church, Payne Memorial, uptown on Liberty. So I always had that spiritual foundation, and I acknowledge in the book that that's where it all started in terms of faith. There can be no relationship without God. He is the ultimate for me. And so outside of that, the family incorporated that spiritual foundation. But it just, when I hear of other friends and, know of other people who didn't have a strong family of ties, I'm like, wow, I was fortunate and blessed to have such a close knit family, immediately and extended. So even
Right.
though I was the youngest, I would go by my aunt. She had daughters. So, they always, although I was the baby, they would always, treat me good and buy me. And I was a pretty good kid because I always travel with my books. So they'll tell you I loved to read. I always had a book. Any family member that know or ask, I always remember she had a book, and she was always eating those sunflower seeds. But she was always eating hot fries. And I did engage and play, but that was just my thing. Reading for me was an escape. And it opened, it just opened my whole world. It expanded my vocabulary, and it took me to other places. Sometimes you need an escape to get away. And not that I needed to, because my childhood was good, but sometimes you just want to go somewhere. So when I would read those books, and the ones that were big at that time, I'm sorry if I'm getting off topic, the ones that were big at that time were like the Babysitters Club. I was into
Oh
Nancy.
yeah.
I was into, pretty much all kinds and all types. I didn't have a particular favorite genre of books, but I just loved them all. Especially,
Hmm.
the ones that, that had female characters in it, little girls. But I love different kinds. Black history I was big on, just pretty much learning everything that I could at that time about
Right.
anything that was relative, to me at that time. So just, having that and being able to do that was my own little thing. I really didn't bother anyone. They didn't bother me. They know, okay, she's over there. She has a book, she'll come back and play and talk, but she has a book. But then on the other side of that, I always love to talk and act. So, if it was a game that we had to act out or speak, hey, I was the girl for it. So just being able to kind of find my place, because sometimes, in larger families, you kind of get lost and can't really find your place. But I knew that I was different in a sense that you didn't really find too many children reading books at that time. They want to play. We had spinning tops. We had cool can. You know what we had, the games that we were playing.
Right. Right.
For me, I did like to play, but I would sit on the porch and I would read my book and eat my sunflower seeds, and I was just as happy.
Hmm. Reading for kids, I think, is an awesome thing. Like when I was a child, like we have a lot of similarities. Like I was writing as a small child, and if I had a book, I was happy because, like you said, like a book literally took you into another world. And when I was a kid, I went to Henry W. Allen, which I think is some science school now, but it was
Okay.
on Nashville and Loyola. And back in the day, like I was telling my kids, I always start things off with back in the day. But I was like, well, back in the day when we did standardized testing, or if it rained outside, we had to sit in the auditorium and they always showed the same movie called The Never Ending Story. And like the little kid in the book, but he was immersed in this book. And I felt like that little boy so much because if I had a book, and it's funny how you mentioned like you wasn't like you didn't have like a particular genre. Me either. I like all types of different things actually as far as books. But
Mhm.
once I had a book in my hand, like I felt like I was in another world. So that's
Right.
like interesting that you said that.
Yeah,
So in
we
the book, yeah, we definitely have some, and I'm the baby too of the family, ironically. So
okay,
we definitely
okay.
have some similarities. But in the book, I know you have it broken out. In the book, for anyone that's listening, and I'll definitely make sure that we have all the contact information on how to purchase the book. But the book is a very easy read. Same thing I said last week. Actually, I have all these great, awesome sisters writing these books. So I definitely got to shout out sisters. That's all these black female authors is freaking phenomenal. But just like Tiffany's book last week in our past episode, same thing. Very easy reads. Like we have some intelligent sisters out here that can write their tails off. So same thing with your book. It
Thank
flows very
you.
easily.
Thank
Now,
you.
also like the way you have the book set up, I really like. So for anyone listening, the book is set up in 3 sections. So you have section 1, which is living the life, section 2, which is learning the lessons, and section 3, which is loving the legacy, which ties into, of course, the title, Live, Learn, Love. So, as far as like section 1, living the life, and I know like we touched on family, things of that nature. So, can you break down like the 3 sections? Because, of course, this leads into your journey and, getting to the stage that you needed to be at, as far as you said, living, learning, and loving with an open heart and the life lessons in cultivating a healthy relationship. So if we started off at section 1, living the life, how would you summarize exactly what that means to you?
Well, when I prepared the book, and like as I stated, I had the tentative outline. I knew the things that I wanted to address. And when I thought about living the life, and you're absolutely right, I don't know how you figured it out, but I guess it was simple. That is the LLL, the live, learn, love.
Mhm.
So I thought about what living the life meant to me, how I was living my life or trying to live my life. And I thought about under that particular section the things that incorporated living the life. And as I stated, I come from a spiritual family with a strong sense of faith in God. And for me, it had to start there. It wouldn't have been right to start anywhere else but with my faith in God and how this project came to be. So my first chapter is Faith Is. Then I have chapter 2, Family Matters, and chapter 3, Friends and Finances. So for me, living the life incorporates those things. It incorporates my faith in God and also having a faith in myself and how God, helps us to having the faith in God helps us to have the faith in ourselves. Just knowing that, my belief is in something that's supernatural, that's, something greater than anything on earth or greater than man, that has definitely helped me in some difficult moments throughout the journey, throughout the various relationships. Having something to hold on to, a word to believe in, has definitely helped. So after that, I realized that the first really idea or understanding that we have is with our families. But that's where the second aspect of relationships come from. And it was big for me to share that because oftentimes I don't think we really acknowledge and appreciate those relationships for whatever
Mhm.
reason. So it was very important. Hey, we must not only acknowledge these relationships, but we must appreciate them for the lessons and blessings that they are in our lives, the lessons that they teach us. So that comes after my faith in God with my family. That was the first idea or understanding of what I knew what a relationship was. Family, my immediate family, and I speak about extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, even close family, friends, and everything that incorporates the family. Like you said, everybody knows everybody. So pretty much, just having that interior, immediate, and exterior outside families. Then I get to friends, which are our chosen family members. They say we can't choose our family, but we can choose our friends.
Right.
And the really good friends get promoted to family. And in the book, I speak about some friends that, we started out as friends or business associates or, what have you. But it developed into a deeper relationship where I consider them, family. I'm at their events, they're at mine. We share the highs and lows, of life with each other. The good, the bad, we're pretty much there for each other. And even though, we may not talk to each other or see each other all the time, that relationship, that love, that loyalty is still there. With these friends that have become family members. And one other thing I like to say about friends, usually when you think of a friend, we think about childhood, people we've known, for years and years, grew up with, went to school with. But in this, I acknowledge that while everybody may be saying no new friends, no new friends, that there comes a time in life when you meet people, no, we didn't go to elementary school or high school. Maybe we didn't even go to college together, but they came, in my life for a reason. I came in their life for a reason, and we developed, a relationship, a friendship, and it grew. So we have to
Right.
acknowledge, not just, yeah, we went to, we know each other from way back when, but people that come into our lives later in life, for whatever reason, business, for, like I said, it could be for business, it could be for, personal, professional, whatever it may be. They come into our lives later, but, we still have a strong bond. And outside of that is finances. That's a relationship many people don't consider to actually be a relationship, but I break it down. I don't know if you actually got to that section, but it's so funny about
Mm-hmm.
finances because, like I said, most times we don't see that as a relationship. And yet, finances is something that's very important because it definitely has an impact and influence on your relationships. If you're doing well and money is good, then okay, you may be okay. But when you start having financial issues, that creates other issues in relationships. So just being able to look at all those and how they are tied to living the life. That's why I chose to put those sections in chapter one.
It's
Those chapters in
actually,
section one.
but it's actually really smart that you mentioned finances because I also had Malika Honore on the show a
Okay.
few months back, and of course we talked about finances, and it's amazing that you just correlated having a relationship with finances because it's a fact. Because for example, we talk about empowerment on this show, yada yada yada, but healthy finances actually is a part of empowerment. So another level of that is really funny since you mentioned a relationship with finances is how some of us abuse money, how we have bad credit, things of that nature. So
Right.
that's funny too. Having good finances is actually having a healthy relationship with
It is.
finances. So that's actually a very good tie-in, which you're right. I don't think we think about money, finances, things of that nature as a relationship. So that's actually like very smart. Like I never thought about that either actually until recently. I've been obsessing over my finances, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Like I've been obsessing over my credit score, things of that nature, but that's actually very smart actually, like a relationship with your finances. So that's actually really smart.
Thank
So
you.
a note section, and I want people to think about that too. And that's a plug for people to go back and listen to the episode with Malika
I
too, just
love
to listen to
Malika.
how
I love Malika. She's
right. And she
great.
is the credit plug, right?
Hmm.
She is the real deal. So that's a plug for people to go back and listen to that episode too. So let's move forward to section two,
Hmm.
learning the lessons, choices, chances, changes, and the section five, chapter five was commitment to cultivating relationships, and chapter six was communication is the key. Now, one thing that you have in the book that I want to touch on, you listed several of the most popular factors to lead a successful and healthy relationship. And those factors that you listed were communication, respect, trust slash honesty, compromise slash sacrifice, commitment slash loyalty, support, common values, and forgiveness. So let's go ahead and break apart section two. So what was the core of you, coming up with those factors? And just how did you come up to section two? Like what was your motivation in coming up with that?
Well, as we stated with the live, learn, love. So after I lived the life, I thought about learning the lesson. So I kind of, if you catch the alliteration, I like to play with words. So I had the
Mm-hmm.
LLL, and under section two, I have the C's. All of the chapter titles start with C's. So I
Right.
thought about what learning the lessons mean. Okay, so we've done a little living with our faith, family, friends, finances. So now, what are the lessons that I've learned from living? And I believe in life, the goal is to live, learn, and love. And if we pretty much, can do these three in a way that is pleasing in God's sight, then I think we pretty much have this life figured out.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sat down and I thought about that, I thought about the choices, the chances, and the changes. And I thought about how everything is a choice. Every day we make choices. And we don't probably really, realize that, okay, we woke up this morning, we chose to, well, first of all, God woke us up this morning. Let me say that. But
Mm-hmm.
after that, okay, so we made choices. Okay, what am I going to eat? What am I going to wear to work? How am I going to fix my hair? You know, um, where are we going, on weekends? What are we doing today? So every day we make choices, whether we realize it or not. And I think I wanted to approach choices as choosing to engage in healthy relationships. When we make choices, we need to, not just make choices for today as we do, but make choices that are not only going to affect today. And I know they say don't worry about tomorrow. And I do agree with that to the extent, but I do know that the choices we make today can affect tomorrow, can affect us
Oh,
weeks and
definitely.
months and years down the road. So, while I'm not
Definitely.
looking ahead, yeah, okay, if I make a bad choice today, it may be around for a while. Even when today is yesterday, that bad choice or decision I made will still be here to haunt me. So I just wanted people to be more mindful in the choices that they made. And I use a quote from Zig Ziglar: choices, chances,
Mm-hmm.
changes. You must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change. So when we think about, making these choices, like we said, good or bad, we know that there is a consequence. If it's a good choice, okay, maybe everything will be fine. But if we don't make the best choice, then there will be a consequence. So just being mindful of the choices that we make daily, like as I stated, in our relationships, whether it's professional, romantic, personal, familiar, just being mindful of these choices, and then recognizing that we're not perfect. So yes, we may, make a choice that's not so good, but we can change it. You can always change. You can always begin again. You can always start anew, and just come into terms with these choices. So in that chapter, I speak a little bit about where I was, at that point in my life. I had made some good choices, and on the other hand, I made some not so good choices. So I didn't want to beat myself up about it. It's a learning lesson. That's why we're learning the lessons. So, okay, you made this choice, you learned, okay, it was good. All right, cool. It wasn't so good. Okay, what did you learn from this? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about life? And what did you learn about others? And how can you use these lessons to make better choices in the present and in the future? So, after I got off that part, I went to commitment to cultivating relationships. And I think that's very important that we be committed to cultivating, and you use some of the some of the components that I share that lead to successful, healthy relationships. And it wasn't an all-inclusive list. And I acknowledge that while not all relationships are created equally, in my opinion, those constitute some of the basic elements of a healthy relationship. We all want to be able to communicate effectively, not just communicate, but we want to practice effective communication skills. We want to be respected. So that means we have to respect others. We want to be trusted. Need to trust others. We want to be honest. We want others to be honest with us. So I just went down that list and thought about the elements and components that I have experienced in my relationships, that I needed, to experience more of, that I needed to work on. But I really thought about, hey, if I have that perfect relationship, and we know there's, air quote, no such thing as perfect, what do I want in my relationship? And these are most of the things that I will want. As I stated, it's not an all inclusive list. And of course, all relationships are not equal. So, what I want in
Mm-hmm.
mine, you may want something different in yours. But I think basically we want support from our spouse, our family, our friends. We want commitment,
Right.
loyalty. And it's not only from our romantic relationships, as I stated, we want this from our professional and our business, relationships. We want it from our family. We want it from our friends. So these elements are for all types of relationships, not just I want communication from my partner. You need communication from, from your child. You need communication with your employees and coworkers. You need to communicate with God. So it really stretches and reaches to all forms of relationships. But I think, it is really a good starting goal, a starting list of things you should look for in your relationship. I believe that these elements are keys that unlock the door. And of course, you
Mm-hmm.
take what you need, and the things you don't need or don't want, of course, you definitely don't take them. But basically, I think that's a good list, like a good overview. Would you agree?
Right, definitely. And I just like how you broke it down though. And spiraling back to what you had mentioned about not worrying about
Mhm.
tomorrow, but you're right. When just going back to chapter 4, our choices do affect our future though. And that's the thing that is like a hard reality. Cause like, I mean, as we all know, if we make a bad choice, it could affect us down the line for
Right.
years. So like, yeah, we do have to factor in, the future. I mean, no, we shouldn't dwell on it and obsess and like really sicken ourselves into worry. But that's why we have to be clear about the choices that we do make. And as far as relationships, another good point. Yeah, like what works for, Nancy may not work for Sheila. What she wants, what she's looking for, Sheila may not be looking for. But I think we do have the common thread. Everyone should, I would expect, want
Right.
respect, you know,
Right. Right.
you know, and just some peace, that should be some common
Mhm.
threads because we all know some people that they may be in a relationship, and from what we do know, you think to yourself, I don't know if I would want my husband to blah blah blah,
Right. Right.
but it works for those
Right. That's
people,
true.
because not everything is meant for
Everybody.
everybody,
Right.
but there are common threads, that we should generally have, I would think, in all relationships, healthy ones, I would
Yes.
assume. So that does make, and that's the
That's the
key
key,
word,
healthy.
healthy ones.
Yes, you're right, Sarah. That's the
Right.
key, healthy. Yes.
Exactly. Right. And so, but one thing that I forgot to
Mhm.
mention, another thing that you had in the book earlier, you were mentioning that there are 3 common factors that drive people. And even though I wanted to mention it earlier, I think it still fits in regardless in the entire book. So, 3 of the common factors you said that drive people were guilt, resentment, and fear. So, before we get to section 3, do you mind elaborating on that?
On those points?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So, with that point, I'll tell a little story of how I attended the Purpose Driven Church Conference in California
Mm-hmm.
the summer of 2018, which is when I was writing the book. So, the book was released December 2018, and this was a part of my process. So, that June, I was able to attend the conference in California with Cece, the founder of All Access,
Mm-hmm.
who was also a member. She was the CEO of my church at the time. So she and I were able to attend this conference, and Rick Warren, in his book, he spoke about these factors. So as I thought about it, I was like, okay, guilt, as I thought about guilt. And guilt is one of those things that we allow to control us in some form or another. So,
Mm-hmm.
we did something, we made a bad choice, or we did make a choice, and we feeling guilty about it. And to me, that's a form of self imprisonment because we haven't forgiven ourselves and allowed ourselves to move past that. Yes, we did it or we didn't do it. So, I'm not saying don't feel sorry about it, but okay, it happened. And at some point in time, and as a part of the healing process, we have to acknowledge, accept, and adjust. And I speak about that too. And then we have to,
Mm-hmm.
we have to learn how to let things go and forgive ourselves. Forgive others, but we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. And I think when we allow guilt to control us, we're not able to move on. We aren't able to move on from that, from that circumstance or that situation. And it can be a hindrance. It causes us to hide from shame because we don't want people to bring it back up. People have a way of kind of throwing things in your face sometimes when you want to get past that, and they bring it back to you, then that's the guilt
Right.
comes back all over again. So let's say you are part of in the healing process and you have forgiven yourself and you have forgiven that person who may have wronged you, and then someone else, brings you back there, then now that guilt comes back to you. so now you're kind of caught up in it and you aren't able to move past that. Then I talk about resentment, which is kind of the same thing. You're hurt, you hold on to it, you don't let it go. And that
Mm-hmm.
also causes you to keep from moving forward. So these lessons that we're learning, I'm saying lessons because I believe that all relationships are lessons and blessings. And it's not
Correct.
always going to be a good lesson. It's not always going to be the lesson that we want to learn. But for me, it's a lesson that's going to help us and prepare us for the future, for the present, and show us how to deal with, other situations and relationships, and prepare us for other lessons in life that we'll keep on learning. Because as long as you're living, you should be learning, and you should be
Right.
growing, hopefully, and wanting to get better in all areas of your life. So I spoke about those three factors as things that kind of deter us from moving forward in our purpose, from our passion, things that keep us back. And like I said, you need to acknowledge, accept, and adjust. And once you acknowledge these things, I think, okay, you know what, I did it, I felt guilty, okay, I've accepted it, I've forgiven myself, I've forgiven that person. Now I can adjust, I can move forward. I won't let that thing keep me in the past. I won't let that thing hold me back from accomplishing my goals because I'm ashamed, because I resented that person for hurting me. So now I'm kind of stuck. I'm not able to move
Mm.
forward in my spiritual process, my spiritual journey, because I've allowed myself to be stuck in something that happened in the past. And the third one that I spoke about is fear. And fear is just one of those things, they have shows about it, the fear factor. And something
Mm-hmm.
I've learned about fear and faith cannot dwell in the same space. So you're
Right.
either going to be afraid or you're going to have faith in God and in yourself to overcome this fear. You can't do both. So
Right.
again, you have to
Mm-hmm.
make a choice. You have to make a choice what you're going to do, and you have to take a chance. I also speak about, choice, chances, changes. So once you make that choice, you have to take a chance. Okay, this fear can cause you to miss out on some opportunities. So for
Mm.
example, okay, I did send you a message, wanted to participate. Hey, reached out to you, saw something. If I was afraid to do that and to reach out to you, I would have missed out on this opportunity. Not just an
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
opportunity for me to speak to you and to talk about my book, but the opportunity that something that you and I are saying can bless someone else, can help someone else. So if I was afraid to talk to you and to market myself and promote myself and want to share, then there's a lot of opportunities that I would miss out on, and a lot of opportunities that others would miss out on me. And hearing, what I have to
Right.
share and what you have to share, as a part of this platform. So fear kind of works in all kinds of ways. It will stop us from achieving our dreams, from starting our businesses, from having relationships. And as I stated, fear and faith cannot dwell in the same space. So, I mean, you're not always going to get the answer that you want. The lesson is not going to always be
Mm-hmm.
the one that you thought you wanted to learn or were going to learn, but you can't let fear stop you from that. And that's just three things I wanted, to kind of highlight and showcase how they can stop people from achieving their dreams, from pursuing their purpose and passion. And on the flip side, how you can turn those things around and have them work in your favor.
Right. And that's a good point. And that's what I was thinking as you were saying it, how, like you said, it drives us. So, for example, just like you mentioned with fear. Now, when I decided to do the podcast, I was literally just telling somebody this morning, I said, well, I've been through a lot of stuff and I try and be extremely transparent in the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. I said, however, I said that didn't just happen overnight where I just woke up and said, hey, I'm just going to record a podcast and share all this stuff that happened,
Right.
like, because a lot of times, like the bruises and things that we've experienced through life, a lot of us, we guilt, resentment, fear, shame, we don't really want to share it with other
Mm-hmm.
people,
That's true.
so and I had to get past that. I mean, in the back in the day, I don't think I would have been more open to say, "Oh yeah, I was in an abusive relationship, blah blah blah." I don't think I would have had that confidence. But however, when something stirred in me and I was working in like regular 9 to 5s and everyone would say how great I spoke to people and stuff. And I was just like, I don't even care about this job. It's just like, I just like connecting with people. And like I was telling you before we started recording, I love to talk. So last year I was like, I need to utilize that in a way that is going to work for me and work for
Mm-hmm.
others. Because I'm like, me talking about money and numbers at my job is not my passion. And I'm like, my passion was talking to people. And that's why I was doing well. But they had it thinking I really cared about the industry I was in. I'm like, I don't care about that. It was the connecting with
Right.
people. So I had to step out on in fear. When I first, decided, yeah, I think I want to like move forward with this whole brand and move forward with a podcast. I mean, if I had fear based on that, we wouldn't be recording episode
We would
29
not.
right
We would
now.
not. So I want to thank you
Right.
for for overcoming your fear and for using that to fuel your passion and your purpose. Like I said, you can turn it around and have it working in your favor.
Right. Right. You have to turn it around. And we've talked about that. Like, if anyone goes back and listens to past episodes, I'm really big on that. Like, being bold. Like, me and Miss Courtney, we did an episode, Miss Courtney Podgy,
Okay.
who has written a book too,
Okay.
ironically. We talked about being bold and just moving forward. Like, you have to have a level of boldness. So, you're right. Like, fear, guilt, and resentment can also, it depends on how you take that
Hmm.
tool, because you can take it, like you said, and it can literally be something to drive you, but in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, a lot
Yeah.
of us are living our best lives, are achieving our goals, are reaching out to people. Because I've met, like I said, awesome Black women who are out there achieving their dreams, but they would not have done that if they lived in
Right.
fear. You wouldn't have had your book. You wouldn't have been speaking
Mm-mm.
with people. Okay, Malika wouldn't have been who she
Right.
is. Courtney wouldn't have had her book. I mean, none of us would be where we are. Tiffany wouldn't have her journey in her ministry if we had fear in our hearts. Like, fear doesn't
That's
work.
true.
And I said that in the past. Like, fear in a dream is a bad marriage.
Yes.
You can't have these big dreams and be
Mm-mm.
scared. Okay, it's a bad marriage. It's not going to work.
Mm-mm.
So that's my little preaching point.
That's
But
great. That's good though. That's good.
because I could go on and on about that. I definitely, we're not going to forget for you to mention about meeting India Ari. But before we
Okay.
get to that part, I want to go and get home to section
Okay.
3, which was loving a legacy. And I did catch how you had the 3 L's. And like I said, I'm a letters person too. And how, like, of course, the first section was the F's, section 2 was the C's. So now we're on section 3, which was the T's. Time is of the essence, true to me, and transforming
Yeah.
light. And ironically, with the whole transforming light, me and Miss for networking with Queens, Miss
Candy. Hmm.
Candy Matthew, which is another person I forgot to shout out. Me and her just did an episode about go go shine, finding
Hmm.
your light. So that's another one that we just discussed. So let's go and break down
All
section
right.
3.
So with loving a legacy, we lived the life, we've learned the lessons, and now
Mm-hmm.
we are loving the legacy. So for me, that was just bringing home the lessons that I've learned through the relationships, through the living, through my faith in God, through myself. And it kind of was a culmination. I don't want to say culmination because for me, the journey never stops. I'm still on that journey. So for this purpose and this
Right.
project, it was pretty much bringing home the lessons that I had learned, and just learning to love the legacy, which is the legacy that I'm leaving not only for my daughter, but for future generations, and the legacy of self love, the legacy of living, learning, and loving yourself, staying true to you, knowing your worth, knowing your value, and loving others. And for me, when I started that with the T's, I thought of something that was very fascinating to me, and it's time. Time is one of those things that I've always been fascinated with. And, it's kind of like a mystery, like, where does it come from? Where does it go? And
Right.
in acknowledging that, during the purpose and process of writing a book, I thought about time. And I thought about the things we hear, when we lose a loved one, time heals all wounds, and this too shall pass. I thought about those cliches that we always hear: time waits for no one. And I thought about the truth in those statements. And then I thought about times. It's funny, I keep saying that, but I thought about those times when
Mm-hmm.
I thought about time. Like, I thought if it was the right time to do this or the right time to do that. And what I've come to realize is there's never a right time. There's never going to be a
Mm.
right time. You're going to do it. You're going to do it afraid. You're going to do it not afraid. You just have to do it and not always do it on a time, because time is going to pass us by. And when I realized that, it was like one morning, one day I woke up and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, time is going to pass me by. Time is, you
Mm.
don't want to get too caught up in what's the right time or when I should do this and that. And as I said, I just woke up one morning, it was like, I don't have as much time as I think. So what am I going to do with the time that I
Right.
have? Yes, I'm young and we're
Mm-hmm.
thinking old, and then people are dying every day, young, old, sick, not sick.
Yes.
So at this point in time for me, it was like, wow, hold up. This is the time I have. They say nothing is certain. So what am I going to do with this time?
Mm-hmm.
If my life has to end today, what legacy am I going to leave behind? What can be said about Teriece Cherell? What can be said about me? What have I done with the time that God has given me? So that was a
Mm.
big, come to Jesus moment for me. And um as I've matured in life and gotten older, my understanding of time has changed. So I try not to, base everything on time, but I do acknowledge the various seasons in life. And I understand that there is a time for everything and there is a purpose. So while I don't dwell on time, I do acknowledge that it's important, but I seek to better manage my time. I seek to use my time in better ways for positive things, promoting positivity, promoting self-love as you are, promoting those things that will make my time seem more relevant and more,
Mm-hmm.
more essential when it's over. Then you can say, okay, this is what she did with her time. She used it wisely. She tried to help others. She promoted self-love, women empowerment. These are the things that I try to do with my time. And in acknowledging that, I saw that really good relationships are lifelong commitments. So they're going to take time. Relationships, and in the
Right.
book, I talk about how relationships are like precious flowers, and they are cultivated by time, by attention, by commitment. That's how you water them, that's how they grow. So
Right.
it doesn't grow
Mm-hmm.
overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take you watering them, cultivating them, giving them love, giving them attention, allowing them time to transform and to grow. So when I really got to that
Mm.
understanding and concept of time, it's like, okay, so I've come to term with it. This is the time I have. This is what I'm going to do with our time. And even in dealing with loss, with losing loved ones, with losing relationships, even if you lost a job, there's a period of time that you need to grow and to heal. You have to allow yourself this time. Now there's no
Mm-hmm.
specified amount of time. Okay, I recently lost someone that was very close to me, a guy, a friend. So you may be like, okay, it's been 2, 3 months. Okay, it's time. But no one can
Mm-hmm.
determine the time that you need to heal. No one can determine, the time that it's going to take for you to get yourself together and to move on. You
Right.
take that time, you take the time that you need, and I always say, take the time that you need. People grieve differently, people process things differently. So take the time that
Mm-hmm.
you need. You're on your own time, more or less. So take the
Right.
time that you need. Okay, next week, next month, all right, you should be over that. No, you take the time that you need in order to get yourself, where you feel that you need to be. And even with ourselves, I speak about a healthy balance of work, of life, a family. There has to be effective time management, and it's crucial to the health of our relationships. Everything is competing for our time. There's only 24 hours in a day. So we work for 8 hours, then we go home and we do, some other work with the families. Okay. Then we want to get a few hours of sleep. We want to watch a few little TV. So is everything competing, and time is so limited? Everyone has the same 24 hours,
Mm.
but excuse me, what are you doing with your 24 hours? I watch podcasts and I listen to podcasts, and I see, this person, Warren Buffett, and I see, the people like
Mm-hmm.
Oprah's and, the millionaires and billionaires of the world. And I'm like, they have the same 24 hours in a day. What are they doing? They doing with their time that
Right.
I'm not doing with mine? Now, of course, our circumstances are
Mm.
different, at this point, but hey, we have the same amount of time. So yes, while I am working, while I am coming home, hey, you can meditate for 5 minutes. You can find, that moment to have with God. You can find that moment to have for yourself. You can find that time to give to your family. So when you say there's not enough time, there really is, but you're just wasting it. You're not using it effectively. You're not being productive with it. And that's something that I think all of us go through. We want to try to maximize our time, but when we're just wasting it, we're like, hey, where did the time go? Because we feel unproductive, that we haven't done enough because we didn't properly manage our time. That goes in
Right.
relationships. That's pretty much across the board. Not just a relationship thing. That's a work thing. That's just all across the board. So it's just learning how to better manage our time more effectively, prioritizing, only focusing on those things
Mm-hmm.
that we can control, and just making sure that outside of that, while we're giving to our jobs, our families, our spouses, that we also make that time for ourselves. That we
Right.
have those moments. Like I said, for me, I love to read. So after the house is quiet, I've taken care of my job, my motherly duties. Okay, find those few moments just to woosah. I light my candle and I like to listen to music. So you have to find that time. It may not be hours and hours, but for those 5 minutes, for those 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes where I can just shut off, light the candle, let the fragrance permeate, listen to that soft, soothing music, that's my time. And it's enough to recharge me, to re-energize me, and to allow me to refocus and get back to what I need to do so that I can keep on going.
Imagine how our lives would be though if we treated time as it was something that is precious and fragile. I think we all would look at things very
Yes.
differently. And I think unfortunately sometimes it takes something bad for us to
Oh
realize
my
what time
God.
is,
Yes, yes.
but if we really viewed it as, okay, this is fragile, like this is something that I really need to put a lot of care into, I think we really would live richer and fuller lives because, like you said, we would really think twice before we do certain things. We would also look at things that in our minds, oh, I don't have time to do this. We would make more time. We would make more time for
Right.
people too that we may take for granted, if we really view time as something that, if I don't treat this well enough, it can be damaged. I think if we really view time in the way like you're mentioning that, I think our lives would be very
They
different
would be.
actually.
They would
And
be. And I can share that because I just recently experienced that, as I stated, with the death, of a loved one, of a friend that was
mhm,
very close to me. And as I'm thinking back, I'm like,
mhm,
wow, he just wanted to spend more time. He just wanted, to do more things. And I wanted to do things, but I was
right,
trying to write. I was trying to read. I was focusing on the business and the goals, and he just wanted time. And
mhm,
just talking about it, like you're saying, seeing it and listening to it and knowing that I wrote it, is like we make time for things that are important to us. And though my dreams
mm,
were important, and focusing on that and writing a book, he's no longer there to spend that time he wanted to. Of course, I didn't think, hey, next week he's
right,
not going to be there. I'm going to write, focus on the book. That was my routine. But I know you're trying to write. I know you're trying to read. Okay, we're going to hook up. All right. Well, I can't do it today. Next weekend, we're going to spend our time. And then that weekend never
mhm,
came. He wasn't there that weekend. So,
right,
for me, it's more of bringing it home and learning that lesson. Hey, I said that, but I wasn't always doing that with that time. So now I know I'm feeling like, man, if I could go back to that night, I put that writing and reading to the side. Let's go. Let's spend time, because now I don't have that time.
right,
I just have memories from the
right,
previous times. So now I have more than enough time to read and write because he's not there to get that time. So it's just like you said, unfortunate things have to happen for us to see that. Of course, I knew it at the time, but I wasn't really practicing it.
mhm,
I wasn't putting it into, okay, yeah, I want to do this, but I'm like, okay, like I said, effective, you got to manage it. Yeah, we can spend time, but okay, I got to
right,
have this, this time for the goals, this time for this time for that.
mhm,
And there was a time when I wasn't effectively managing it, like I should have. And like you said, it's just so unfortunate because now I'm like, man, toss that book to the side of that writing. Let me give you the time that you wanted,
right,
and deserve. But at that moment, it just, and I'm like, that's just something I have to live with. I can't go back. But just
Right.
acknowledging that goes
Right.
into the healing piece, as I said, in the time. But now moving forward, I know,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if it's important to me, I'm going to give it some time. Now, while it can't get all the time,
Right.
it's going to get the time that it deserves and it requires, and everything else.
Right, but just finding
Right.
that balance, and how we
Right.
spend our time. Because I'm like going through the similar thing, like
Hmm.
as I mentioned in previous episodes, like both of my parents had ended up
I'm
with this
sorry.
virus, and my mom, she was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I did not think she was going to make it, but now that she is out of the hospital, now mind you, like I said, I'm
Oh,
the
God
baby
is
of the
good.
family. My mom would call me almost every day, and there'd be some times where I couldn't grab the phone, and I'd be like, I get caught up with stuff. I'm like, oh, let me make sure I call her first thing tomorrow
Mm,
morning. But now I can't talk to my mom every day,
right.
and it's been like hard to deal with. I have not spoken to my mom in almost 2 months because she literally
Oh,
can't
wow.
talk. So, and I'm like, wow. So I don't care what person you are, anybody like you mentioned is going to start rewinding back in your mind, like, oh man, if only I
Mm-hmm.
had done this. I wish I had done that. Like even like before this happened, my mom came back to me some stuffed artichoke recipe she saw. I don't know where she saw this recipe, but like she kept asking me to make it. Now, mind you, like I said, I'm from New Orleans, but I moved to Slidell what
Oh,
10 years
wow.
ago or so, whatever. So like I'll always be wrapped up in stuff, and I'd be like, well, I'm gonna get to it. I will make it. This has been going on for the longest, and like in the back of my mind all the time, I'm like, wow, what if something happens and
To
I never
make
get
it
that
right.
chance anymore, So, like I said, I think it's unfortunate that bad things, and I hate to use the
Right.
term bad, but certain things, let's put it that way, to not see if
Right.
I
Well,
don't use a
life happens.
negative,
Life happens,
adjective,
and
but
people understand life happens.
right, life does happen. Right. So, like I said, if only we like viewed time, and I've naturally reflected on a lot
Hmm.
of time recently, just dealing with this, and like I was at the point where I thought I was going to be losing a parent. You start
Right.
thinking about time in so many different ways. Even after I made 40, I started thinking about time in a different way, and that was one of the things also that did motivate me to say, you know what, step out on faith, leave this career, and try and step out and see where this goes as far as the vision you have, blah blah blah, because I'm like, I'm not guaranteed time, and that's one thing that I've told people a lot of times. We we're as humans, I think we're conditioned to think that we're privileged for old
Right.
age. No, we're not.
Right.
Like we're not. That's nothing. God does not owe us
Mm-mm.
old age. Okay, that's not written anywhere. Okay, like we're not guaranteed old age. We're not, like we're not these superhumans that we deserve it
Right.
over this person. We're all not meant to see 70s, 80s, 90s, but in our minds, we kid ourselves and think that we have all this
Yes,
time in the world, and we put things off.
we
We'll
do.
put people off, or we'll put goals off because we think we have time. But if we really view time as what it is, we're literally losing time every
Yes, we
day,
are.
And if we looked at time as something precious and fragile, I just really feel like we would be in
We
different
would.
stages in our lives, So that's why, like, I always commend people that step out and follow those dreams, like writing a book or becoming, an empowerment speaker, or just stepping out, because we really aren't guaranteed that time, and a lot of us are watching from the sidelines, like, I really want to write that book, but they
Right.
haven't done it yet. Or they think, well, I'll maybe do it later. No,
Right.
do
That's
it
true.
now, So, and just like you said, in relationships, if we just view time in a different way, I feel like it really would strengthen our relationships too. And it will also, on the flip side, strengthen our self control on some people who
True.
shouldn't be in our
True.
lives either. Because we don't
Right.
have all this time, you shouldn't be dealing with so and so. Some of us know this in the back of
Right,
our
right.
mind,
So we would,
and,
yes, better
but
utilize that time, not wait. I don't want to say waste because I don't want to
right,
feel like, it's wasted, but at the same time, you can be doing other
right,
things that are more productive, giving
correct,
that time to people who will better appreciate it more. We'll say that. So not really wasting it,
mm,
but, just being more
right,
productive with it and being more mindful and being a little selfish with it because my bishop taught me three things you can't get back: your money. Well, money you can kind of make it back, but he said don't waste your money, don't waste your time, and don't waste your life. With
Right.
the money, okay,
Nope.
you give it, you could get it back. But definitely you can't get your life back and you can't get your time back. So the time that we
Not
are
at all.
giving to people and things that don't necessarily deserve it or don't appreciate it, that's just lost time. Like they say, just take that L. But moving forward, hey,
Right.
I'm going to be a little more stingy with my time. I'm going to give it to people that
Mm-hmm.
deserve it, that that want it, that need it, and I'm also going to use
Yes.
it for myself.
Definitely, exactly. Cause, and I know we've all been there. And I can speak from a woman's perspective. I'm sure we've all had situations where
Oh
we
yes,
walked away from a relationship, and a lot of times maybe a
yes.
little later than we should have. But then, like that year or two later, once you truly over it, or months or whatever, and you look back on it, you look at yourself like, wow, I can't believe I spent
Right,
all that
right.
time,
That's
you know,
that's true.
on
Keep
so
it
and so.
real.
Once you've
Keep it
gotten to
real.
that growth stage and you look back on it like, dang, I can't believe I even
Mm-mm.
dealt 2 minutes
Girl.
with this person. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if we just view time in that way and tying back to my message,
Mm-hmm.
loving yourself and viewing
Right.
everything as precious and fragile, I just feel like,
Of
different
course.
results could happen. But just to tie up, I have to hear the story of how you met
Oh
in
my
the
God. Okay.
RE.
So just a little back. So staying true to you was a part of that also. A part of section 3 with loving a legacy. Staying true to you is very important. And that's just not
Hmm.
compromising your values or beliefs. Staying true to you is the you that God created you to be, not the person you pretend to be, not the person people think you are, the person you portray to be, but staying true to who
Right.
you are and learning to accept yourself, faults, flaws, and failures, and learning to love yourself. All that goes with staying true to who you are and who God created you to be. And that's just something else that I had to learn throughout the process. So the India Irie story is actually last year around Mother's Day. Well, it was
Hmm.
actually after Mother's Day. It was the Thursday after Mother's Day, May 16th. She came in town for her Worthy tour. And, prior to from the moment that I knew she was coming in town, I'm like, I gotta go to this concert because I love her. She's one of my faves and the book and everything. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I have to get this book in her hand. So the stars were aligning. We got the tickets and we didn't have the tickets that we needed. So this ties in the power of connections, which I speak about in chapter 5, the power of connections and putting things
Hmm.
into the atmosphere, speaking those things that are not as if they are.
Hmm.
So, I started praying. I posted on Facebook. I put it out there. Look, I'm trying to, see in the IRE. We have these tickets, but it's not the tickets that will allow us access to see her. It wasn't the initial VIP tickets that we wanted, because there was an issue with the box office not being responsive. So we had tickets. I was going to be in a house, but not where I needed to be in order to give her the book. So, I put it out there on Facebook. It was
Hmm.
placed out there on her page, the tour page, and Instagram. And I had people, coming into agreement. They say, well, 2 or 3 are gathered. So, and friends and family, she
Right.
wrote this book. She really loves your music. It inspired her. If someone sees this message, please pass it on. She deserves this. I want to make this happen for her. This is what it is. This is what it is. So actually, she sent a DM back, and she was like,
Wow.
this is great. So she left her manager's contact information. We contacted the manager, come here at this time, and we were able to get the tickets. So at this point in time, I had the book. I signed it for her. It was just one of those things that seemed so surreal. It's like, okay, you wrote this book, you mentioned this person,
Hmm.
and of course when I wrote it, I didn't think she would be coming to New Orleans and I would have the intention or the opportunity to give it to her. But it was always like, if I find a
Right.
email or get a mailing address, I'm going to send her a copy of this book. And what that moment actually did for me, like I said, outside of collaborating with others and the power of connections and speaking those things, it was having faith that someone was going to see that message, someone was going
Mm.
to relay it. She probably had thousands of DMs, thousands of messages on her Facebook page, thousands of
Right.
messages on a tour page, but we were posting and tagging that very day. I'm talking about the same day, not the day before, that same day up until that time. And when
Right.
she saw it, she responded. And I was like, oh my God. And at that moment, at that time, I'm like, wow, this is, I don't really talk about it that much. I guess, you have the initial excitement, but this is something that I'm really proud of, because I know wherever she is, that book is with her in the IRE. If you listen to this podcast, I love you. I want to thank God, first of all, for giving you that gift. I want to thank you for sharing your gift with the world. It was the Worthy Tour in New Orleans at Mahalia Jackson, May 16,
Wow.
2019. I am worthy. Thank you so much. I know my worth. I know my value. I love myself. I'm true to me. And I had the opportunity to place this book in her hand and to let her know what I just let her know, what I just shared with you, what she did for me. And I'm pretty
Right.
sure countless others, but that was our moment. And I gave her the book, and we took our picture. And wherever she is, this book is, I don't know if she's had the chance to read it yet, but when she does and sits down, I just want her to know how, because she shined her light, because she allowed God to use her, because she used her gift with the world, that this is just a token of my appreciation. And it was dedicated, inspired, excuse me, by her album. And that's my India. That's my
That
India
is
resource.
awesome.
So, I'll be posting my picture. Is May 16 rolls around. That'll be 1 year. I will be posting my picture to, that's a day I'll never forget. That opportunity. Even though, we exchanged a few words, we took our picture, but that's something that I will always remember, because that just goes to show you the power of faith, the power of believing in yourself, or believing in God, first of all, and networking and collaborating, and just believing, that day, whether I had to give the book to friends that I had that was in VIP, that was on the floor, this book was going to be placed in her hand. But it was more special because I was the one who did it. I wrote it. I wanted to thank her and show her, and I placed this book in her hand.
That is amazing. And that's an awesome story
But
too.
thank you.
But imagine if people had
Right.
been
If I would have let
scared.
that fear, babe, I wouldn't have been in that DM. I wouldn't have
Right.
been posting on Facebook. I wouldn't have been, having people to collaborate and connect. I wouldn't have been able, to place myself in that position. And like I said, I did have people, collaborating, praying, working, putting it out there too. And that's very important. That's that support that I speak about. It's very important. And support isn't
Mhm.
always financial. You can like my post,
Right,
you can
it's
share
not.
my post, you can refer me to a friend, you can pray for me, you can pass out a flyer. So of course we want
Mhm.
people to support our business. Of course, I want people to buy the book, to buy the products. But even if you aren't able to, you can say, well, I heard you
Mhm.
on the podcast, the podcast. So I'm going to refer
Right.
someone to you that's having a
Right.
conference, that's having an event. Well, hey, I heard this author on on the podcast, and you refer somebody to me. You follow my page. You pray for me. So those are all forms of support, and I think that we need to acknowledge. And as I said before, I speak about acknowledge, accept, and adjust. And once we do that, we'll be able to live the life. We'll be able to learn the lessons, and we'll be able to love the legacy that we leave. But we can't be selfish about it. It's not just a legacy for us, for ourselves, for me. It's
No.
for my daughter. It's it's for future generations. It's for
Right.
your kids and grandkids. It's a legacy for everybody. A legacy for everybody.
Right.
And I think, when we began to see things that we're doing, in that manner, and knowing, hey, it's not all about me, but it's about the kingdom of God, it's about the glory of God, it's about helping others, then the world will be a better place.
That is the definite facts. So I want to round out the episode, but I want to give you the floor. Of course, before we end, I want you to tell everyone how they can purchase the book and how they can find you on social media. But just give a lasting. Tell us how you can get the book first,
Okay.
and then I'll have you round it out. But give everyone the information on how they can purchase the book and also where they can find you on every
Okay,
social
so
media
the book
outlet.
can be purchased from my website. That's www.teriece, Teriece, Cherell, Cherell.com. That's TerieCherell.com. You can also purchase the book on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. It's Live, Learn, Love with an Open Heart, Life Lessons on Cultivating Healthy and Meaningful Relationships. On Facebook, I am Teriece Cherell, spelled the same way. And I also have a page for the book Live, Learn, Love. On Instagram, I am Teriece Cherell. The symbol for I am Teriece Cherell. And Twitter, the same thing. I am Teriece Cherell. So I'm on all forms of social media. You can check out my website, TericeCherell.com. You can email me, TericeCherell@gmail.com. And it's very unique, TerieceCherell, Teriece.
Awesome. So, guys, make sure you check out Miss Teriece, follow her, and definitely check out this book. But I want you to just, what is your lasting thoughts you want everyone to take away from the message that you want to give everyone?
One thing that I always say is that all relationships are lessons and blessings, even the ones that don't always work out. And I really want people to acknowledge and appreciate the relationships in our lives. And I'm very big on that because to me, there is nothing more beautiful or greater than an open, loving heart. And when we have these relationships, we have to have an open heart. We have to be open to both give and receive the pure, unconditional love of God. For God is love. And since we are created in his image and likeness, we too are love. So I think when we just began to see these relationships as well as ourselves for the way that God sees us, we'll get a better understanding and appreciation for him. And we'll just begin to live and learn and love as we should. But your heart must be open. That's the only way that you can give and receive. And give freely. Relationships are meant to teach us something. As I say, there are lessons and blessings. We're going to learn something from the relationship and we're going to give something to the relationship. But I think that we just have to be okay with knowing that even if it ends, there's still a lesson and a blessing in it. And we should just cherish that memory and hold on to that and make better choices in our next relationship.
Mm. Thank you again so much for being on the show. I definitely want to tell everyone listening, as I always try in every show, as everyone knows, my famous saying is to go love yourself. I'm very big on
Yes.
that self love, like just knowing that you're worth something, that you're invaluable, like you're precious, and every single person on this earth, you do serve a purpose. Whatever it is in your heart that you want to do, like it's right in the mirror. Like you don't have to seek out anything grand or fabulous. It's right in your heart. Like we all have the tools to make it. And just like Miss Teriece said, just open your heart. Whatever it is that you want to do in this world, whatever goal that you have, you can achieve that. But definitely you have to love yourself. You have to know that you're invaluable. You have to know that you're special. And don't wait for someone else to give you
Mm-mm.
that gratification. Like, please don't. Like, know that you have that love right in your heart and that you really are worth something. And once again, like I always tell people, if no one's told you today that they love you, I love you, Miss Teriece loves you, God loves you, this whole world, you special. There's so many people that we don't realize that are watching. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but that we motivate people and we do inspire them just by getting up sometimes in the morning and just getting up and being present. You're worth something and you are invaluable.
Mhm.
And one thing I do want to end to, just reading through Miss Teresa's book, there was a great line that she had in the book, and I wanted to share that with everyone because this is my wish for everyone as well. And Therese says, "May you find the love you truly deserve and seek to reciprocate it to others." So find that love, but as I always tell people, make sure you love yourself first and realize that you truly are important and you really are special. So thank you again, Miss Therese. I'm so excited that we did
And
connect, and
thank
this has been
you.
an
Thank
awesome
you.
conversation. And I do encourage. Thank you again. Like I really appreciate it. And I definitely want to encourage everyone. Please go seek this book. Once again, it's called Live, Learn, Love with an Open Heart. Life Lessons on Cultivating Healthy and Meaningful Relationships. And we just had Miss Teriece Cherell. So guys, please go love yourselves and go get this book. Thank you.
Bye, guys.